Every morning, millions of men make the same critical mistake. They use their first interaction of the day to negotiate their value downward. You might think sending a "good morning, beautiful" text is a sign of romance or effort, but in the hidden language of attraction, it often translates to a desperate plea for attention. When you lead with that kind of unearned sweetness, you aren't being a nice guy. You're signaling that your happiness is entirely dependent on her response. This creates a scent of neediness that is impossible to ignore. Before the sun is even fully up, you've essentially handed over your power, telling her that you've been lying awake wondering how to stay relevant in her world. If you find yourself staring at your phone at 7 a.m., typing and deleting messages because you're afraid of saying the wrong thing, you've already lost the lead. That hesitation comes from a place of scarcity, not strength. You aren't communicating like a man who is grounded in his own reality. You're communicating like a boy who is terrified of being abandoned or forgotten. Women have an internal radar for this kind of emotional weight. When a text feels heavy, meaning it's loaded with the expectation that she needs to validate you, it becomes a chore for her to answer. Instead of feeling a spark of desire, she feels a sense of pressure, and that is the fastest way to become background noise in her life. The psychological reality is that your first message sets the frame for how she perceives you for the rest of the day. There is a massive unspoken divide between the man who begs for a spot in her mind and the man who naturally commands a presence there. When your words lack weight or internal conviction, they disappear into the void of her inbox. But when you text from a position of presence, the state of being solid, unbothered, and focused on your own mission, the energy shifts completely. She can feel the difference between a man who is chasing her for a hit of dopamine and a man who is simply sharing a piece of his strength. This isn't about memorizing clever lines or using magic words to trick someone into liking you. It's about the internal frame, the mindset and character behind the phone. If you are weak on the inside, even the perfect script will eventually sound hollow. However, when you develop a strong internal world, even a simple two-word message can carry the impact of a lightning bolt. It echoes in her mind all day because it's backed by a man who doesn't need her reply to feel complete. The goal is to stop being the man who waits for her to choose him and start being the man whose presence is so undeniable that she can't help but lean in. The first few minutes after waking up are a psychological golden hour where the mind is semi-conscious, highly emotional, and incredibly impressionable. During this window, whatever information enters a person's brain sets the tone for their entire day. Most men fundamentally misunderstand this opportunity. They attempt to fill that space with noise, a chaotic flood of emojis, long-winded paragraphs, and desperate affirmations designed to force a reaction. What they don't realize is that the human brain is wired to filter out noise. When you over-communicate and over-explain, you aren't being memorable. You are being annoying. You are competing with the hundreds of other digital distractions she faces, and by trying so hard, you ensure that your message carries no real value. In the world of psychology and attraction, women don't respond to noise. They respond to signal. Think of a radio. Noise is the static that causes a headache, while a signal is the clear, crisp melody that cuts through the air. A true signal is powerful because it doesn't beg to be heard. It commands attention simply because it exists. This is why you must adopt the mindset of a stoic leader like Marcus Aurelius. Before you ever reach for your phone, you need to ground yourself in your own clarity, duty, and strength. If you haven't mastered your own morning, your text will inevitably carry the frantic, noisy energy of a man who is lost. You must be centered before you speak, or your words will have nothing to stand on. The harsh reality you have to accept is that attention is cheap, but presence is expensive. In a world of infinite scrolling, anyone with a thumb can send 30 heart emojis or a generic compliment. It costs nothing and means even less. Because it is so easy to do, it has zero value. However, very few men have the discipline to send a single weighted sentence that makes a woman actually stop, breathe, and feel a sense of gravity in her chest. That is the difference between being a distraction and being a presence. A presence is felt even when it isn't speaking. When you send a signal instead of noise, you aren't just sending a text. You are projecting the fact that you are a man of high value who doesn't need to shout to be noticed. Ultimately, your phone is just a tool that broadcasts who you are. If your life is small, your habits are lazy, and your presence is weak, no amount of clever phrasing or perfect timing will save you. You cannot fake a signal. But if you are a man who lives with discipline and moves with purpose, your words naturally become psychological anchors. They hook into her mind and stay there because they represent something real. When she receives a message from a man like that, she doesn't just read it and move on. She feels the weight of it. She realizes that while every other guy is making noise, you are the only one providing a signal worth following. The first strategy you need to master is the grounded reminder. Most men wake up and immediately spill their insecurity into their phone, sending messages that suggest their entire world orbits around the woman they're texting. When you send those long, flowery check-ins, you're essentially telling her that your day doesn't truly start until she acknowledges you. A grounded man does the opposite. He sends a message that signals absolute stability. A simple line like, "Morning, stay sharp today," is powerful because it isn't a plea for attention. It's a reflection of a man who is already in motion and focused on his mission. This creates what we call polarity. When you stand firm in your own masculine energy, it creates a vacuum that naturally pulls her in. You aren't asking for her permission to have a good day. You are inviting her to witness a man who has already mastered his. The second strategy is the subtle challenge, and this is where most men fail by being too nice. There is a common myth that women only want comfort and safety first thing in the morning, but the truth is that comfort without challenge kills attraction. A woman doesn't daydream about a teddy bear who only offers soft words and predictable compliments. She dreams about the man who stirs her blood and expects more from her. When you send a message like, "Don't let today beat you, you're tougher than that," you are doing something revolutionary. You aren't treating her like a fragile princess who needs to be shielded from the world. You are treating her like a warrior. You are signaling that you see her potential and you expect her to live up to it. This shift in tone changes the entire dynamic of the relationship. By issuing a subtle challenge, you stop being a cheerleader and start being a leader. You're planting the idea that your respect and approval are things to be earned, not things you hand out for free like candy. Human beings instinctively rise to the standards set by those they respect. When you tell her she's tougher than that, you become a mental standard in her head. Throughout her day, when she faces a tough meeting or a stressful moment, your words will echo in her mind. She'll find herself wanting to prove you right. You become the man who makes her stronger, and that is an impact no generic "good morning, gorgeous" could ever achieve. Ultimately, these two approaches work because they demand a higher level of engagement. The grounded reminder shows her that you are a solid foundation, while the subtle challenge shows her that you are a man who leads. Instead of being another guy in her inbox asking for a crumb of her time, you are the man who sets the pace for the day. You're not just wishing her a good morning, you're defining what a good morning looks like. When you speak to her strength rather than her ego, you become unforgettable. You stop being a romantic option and start being a psychological necessity. The core of attraction isn't built on being an open book. It's built on the tension of what is left unsaid. Desire thrives on mystery, not the boring safety of certainty. When you explain every feeling and describe every detail of your day, you kill the chase. This is why the mystery line is such a devastatingly effective psychological tool. It leverages the Zeigarnik effect, a proven cognitive bias where the human brain fixates on unfinished tasks or unanswered questions. When you send a line like, "Today will tell me something about you," you aren't just sending a text. You're opening a mental loop that her brain feels compelled to close. She starts wondering what you see, what you're testing, and what her actions will reveal to you. While she is stuck in this loop, analyzing your intent and rereading your words, you have already moved on to conquering your day. By the time she finally hears from you again, she has already invested hours of emotional energy into thinking about you. When words feel too heavy or predictable, you shift to the silent image. We live in a visual age, and our brains are hardwired to process images 60,000 times faster than text. A single photo can bypass her logical defenses and speak directly to her subconscious. However, the key here is intent. Weak men send selfies because they are fishing for a compliment. They want her to tell them they look good so they can feel better about themselves. A strong man sends evidence of his lifestyle. He doesn't need to be in the frame because the frame is his reality. A photo of a steaming black coffee next to a notebook at 5 a.m., the empty road during a morning run, or the weights on a gym floor communicates a level of discipline that words can never capture. You aren't bragging about your hard work. You are simply existing in it and allowing her to catch a glimpse of the man you are when no one is watching. The power of the silent image lies in its raw, unedited presence. When she sees the sweat on your gear or the sunrise from your perspective, she doesn't just see a picture, she feels your rhythm. She imagines your breath, your focus, and your drive. It creates a sense of intimacy that isn't forced or needy. You aren't asking her how she feels. You are showing her how you live. This lack of a caption is the ultimate power move because it forces her to provide the meaning. She becomes the one narrating your story in her head, imagining you as a man of structure and purpose. This visual proof of your discipline stays in her mind far longer than any paragraph ever could, because it's not just a message, it's a memory. By combining mystery with visual evidence, you create a psychological 1-2 punch that most men don't even know exists. You use the mystery line to engage her mind and the silent image to capture her imagination. You stop being a name on a screen and start being a presence in her life. You aren't chasing her attention. You are providing a window into a high-value world that she naturally wants to be part of. This strategy ensures that while other men are begging to be noticed, you are the one she's actually noticing, simply because you have the confidence to say less and show more. The most common mistake men make is placing the woman at the center of their morning, effectively making her the sun and themselves a planet orbiting her. The frame setter is the strategy that flips this dynamic by establishing your mission as the primary focus of your life. When you send a message that briefly states your momentum, like gym done, meeting stacked, win the day, you are communicating that your day is already in motion and your purpose is non-negotiable. This creates a psychological gravity that is incredibly rare and attractive. You aren't asking for her plans or begging for a slot in her schedule. You are showing her that you are a man with a destination. A man who is busy building his empire is infinitely more magnetic than a man who is simply sitting by his phone waiting for a reply. However, pure ambition can sometimes feel cold or heavy, which is why you must balance that strength with playful tension. Attraction isn't built on a single note, it's built on contrast. If you are always serious and mission-focused, you become predictable. But when you can carry authority in one breath and drop a playful tease in the next, you demonstrate true emotional control. Only a man who is fully confident in his value can afford to tease without the fear of offending or losing her. A line like, "Try not to cause chaos before noon, I'm counting on you," acts as a microdose of tension and release. It catches her off guard, makes her smile, and triggers a hit of dopamine in her brain. This is the foundation of emotional charisma, the ability to lead while remaining relaxed enough to play. This combination of framing and teasing proves to her and to yourself that you haven't been conquered by her beauty or her presence. You are showing that while you notice her, you are not moved or shaken by her. Most men treat a woman like a fragile glass sculpture or a goddess to be worshipped, which immediately kills the spark because it removes all the challenge from the interaction. By teasing her, you are signaling that you are on her level, or even a step ahead. It creates a fun, competitive energy where she feels the need to step up and match your wit. You aren't just another guy giving her a boring compliment. You are the man who makes her feel alive and alert before she's even finished her first cup of coffee. Ultimately, setting the frame and using playful tension turns your morning text into a statement of identity. You are letting her know that your life is a moving train, and while she is welcome to enjoy the ride, the train isn't stopping for anyone. This creates a sense of urgency and desire in her. She doesn't just think about what you said. She thinks about who you are. She starts to wonder how she can fit into your busy, high-energy world. By leading with your mission and seasoning it with playfulness, you become the highlight of her inbox, the one man who offers strength, direction, and a spark of genuine excitement. The final and most sophisticated strategy is the stoic note, a move that instantly separates you from the masses of men competing for her attention. While most guys are busy stimulating her ego with shallow flattery or chasing her mood with emojis, you are doing something far more profound. You are awakening her intellect. By sharing a brief fragment of timeless wisdom, something like a thought from Seneca on managing anxiety or Marcus Aurelius on finding inner strength, you frame yourself as a man of rare depth. You aren't lecturing or acting like a professor, you are acting as a source of grounding energy. In a modern world that is chaotic, fast-paced, and filled with shallow hookup culture, a man who brings substance and clarity to the table becomes a beacon. When your words provide the calm perspective she leans on during a stressful workday, you stop being just another name in her phone and start becoming a genuine influence in her life. This approach works because it targets the parts of a woman that don't get bored: her mind and her character. When you make a woman think, or when you offer a perspective that helps her navigate her own life more effectively, you create an intellectual and emotional bond that surface-level flirting can't touch. Over time, your voice becomes the one she hears in her mind when she needs to find her own center. You aren't just dating at that point. You are establishing a presence that carries real weight. This strategy proves that you value high-level thinking and discipline, and it subtly invites her to step into that higher vibration with you. You aren't just another guy trying to take her time. You are the man who adds value to her internal world before the day has even truly begun. However, you must understand a fundamental truth. These strategies are not tricks or magic spells, and they will fail if they aren't backed by reality. These messages are mirrors. They reflect the man you actually are. If you are hollow, lazy, or insecure on the inside, even the most perfect stoic quote will eventually sound like a cheap performance. You cannot fake a grounded presence for long. To make these words carry the weight of an anchor, you must first build yourself into a man of discipline. You must actually be doing the morning runs, crushing the meetings, and studying the philosophy you're quoting. When your lifestyle matches your language, your texts carry an undeniable energy that she can feel through the screen. Ultimately, the difference between a boy and a man is found in their intention. A boy texts because he is starving for attention and needs to be noticed to feel worthy. A man texts because he is already noticed. He is already a force in the world, and his message is simply an extension of a life already well lived. By using the Stoic note, you are demonstrating that you live by a code, and that you are a man who leads himself before he ever tries to lead anyone else. When you reach this level, you don't have to worry about being forgotten, because a man of depth and discipline is a rarity that no woman ever wants to let go of.